In a world that's constantly reacting on social media, in relationships, in boardrooms, we've been conditioned to believe that immediate response equals power. That if someone disrespects you, your power lies in how quickly and loudly you clap back. But true strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes strongest move you can make is to say nothing at all. Silence is not the absence of emotion. It's the mastery of emotion. It's the ability to feel everything, hurt, rage, betrayal, and still choose to remain grounded. That's power. There is a discipline in silence that not everyone understands. When someone disrespects you, there's a fire that ignites within. It urges you to retaliate, to defend, to prove a point. But reacting in that moment can mean giving someone control over your energy, your peace, your presence. Choosing silence is not about pretending you're unaffected. It's about choosing not to be driven by their chaos. It's the refusal to lower your vibration to match someone else's pettiness. We often equate silence with submission. Especially as women, we're taught that we must stand up, speak out, and defend ourselves at all times. And yes, there are moments when we absolutely must, but not every insult deserves your voice. Not every challenge is worth your crown. There's a quiet rebellion in not giving disrespect a stage. It's a choice to protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Silence doesn't mean you didn't notice. It doesn't mean you've accepted the disrespect. It means you are strategic, you are intentional, you are choosing not to react emotionally, to rise intellectually and spiritually. When you respond with silence, you're letting your presence speak for you. And trust me, presence can be louder than words. People remember the one who walked away with grace more than the one who shouted in rage. This kind of strength, the kind that remains composed while being tested, isn't taught in schools. It's learned in moments when your pride is bruised, your worth is dismissed, and your silence becomes your armor. It is strength under control, a power that doesn't seek validation or victory in conflict, but finds triumph in self-respect. In that silence, you are not passive. You are sovereign. You are in command. We live in a time where being reactive is almost expected. Every slight, every insult, every offhand comment, people are ready with a comeback, a post, a confrontation. But what if true power lies in not reacting at all? Not everyone deserves access to your energy. When someone crosses a line or throws shade, the instinct to defend yourself can be strong. Reacting to every provocation doesn't make you powerful. It makes you accessible to chaos. And not everyone earns that access. There's an elegance in restraint that people underestimate. When you choose not to react, you're not suppressing your strength. You're elevating it. You're telling the world, I know my value, and I don't need to prove it in this moment. Reaction gives power to the other person. It places them at the center of your emotions. But when you choose non-response, you are shifting the spotlight back to yourself. You're staying rooted in control, not in emotion. Not everyone is worthy of your attention, especially those who try to provoke you just to validate their own insecurity. Some people throw disrespect just to see if you'll crumble. But here's the truth. Your silence can be far more unsettling than any argument. It forces people to sit with themselves. It gives them no fuel, no reaction to feed off. And in that space of nothingness, they are left to face their own behavior. That's a kind of justice you don't need to deliver. Your absence does it for you. There's also something deeply personal about non-response. It's a boundary that doesn't require words. It says, I see what you did, just don't care to acknowledge it. And that quiet boundary, it protects your mental space like nothing else. Not everyone deserves your words. Not everyone should get a seat at your emotional table. Sometimes the greatest form of self-respect is walking past something without stopping to explain your silence. And remember, non-response doesn't mean you didn't notice. It means you noticed everything and chose to rise above it. That's power. Not impulsive, not aggressive, but calm, composed, and deeply aware. You don't have to fight every battle to prove you're strong. Sometimes the ones you don't fight are the very ones that define your strength, because the loudest person in the room isn't always the one in control. Often it's the one who knows when to stay quiet. When someone disrespects you, it's easy to internalize it, to question your worth, your choices, or your voice. But here's what I've learned through the toughest moments of my life. someone says about you, how they treat you is far more about who they are than who you are. Disrespect doesn't define your value, it exposes their character. People project their own fears, insecurities, and unresolved issues onto others. So when you're on the receiving end of unkindness, remind yourself it's a mirror of them. We often get caught in the trap of asking, what did I do wrong, or did I deserve this? But let's be honest, sometimes people disrespect you not because you did something wrong, but because you're doing something right. You're showing up with confidence, with strength, with light. And for some, that's intimidating. Instead of rising with you, they try to pull you down. They belittle what they don't understand. They dismiss what they can't control. Disrespect is often a mask for their discomfort. It takes emotional maturity to understand that someone's bad behavior isn't always a response to you. It's a reflection of their inner chaos. Once you stop personalizing other people's projections, you begin to live freer. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold your light. You stop apologizing for being too bold, too opinionated, too unapologetically you. Disrespect loses its sting the moment you recognize it has nothing to do with your truth. You can't control how others treat you, but you can control how you interpret it. When someone tries to make you feel small, understand, it's often because they feel invisible. When they question your worth, it's because they're unsure of their own. So rather than letting their words sink into your skin, let them bounce off the armor of self-awareness. Their opinion does not become your identity unless you allow it to. And you don't owe anyone the power to shape how you see yourself. This shift in perspective doesn't happen overnight. It takes strength, clarity, and sometimes heartbreak. Once you see disrespect for what it truly is, a signal of someone else's wounds, you stop taking it personally. You stop defending yourself against noise that was never about you to begin with. You begin to understand that your worth was never up for debate. Their actions are their truth. Your response or your silence is yours. We grow up thinking that winning arguments means we've proven ourselves, that being right is the ultimate goal. But as life unfolds, especially under the spotlight of pressure, betrayal, or disrespect, you begin to realize that being right isn't always worth the cost of your peace. You can win the argument and still lose yourself in the chaos it creates. There comes a moment where you have to ask, is it worth disturbing my spirit just to prove a point? Because peace once lost takes time and energy to restore, and not everyone or everything is worth that disruption. Arguments often pull us into emotional warfare. They bait us into defending our intelligence, our choices, our identity. But the deeper truth is, the loudest voice doesn't always carry the truth, just the ego. Ego thrives on conflict. Peace, on the other hand, thrives on clarity. When you choose not to engage in an unnecessary fight, you're not surrendering, you're simply prioritizing your well-being over temporary validation. You don't need to prove you're right to someone who's already decided not to understand you. There's a certain liberation in walking away from a battle you could have won simply because your mental stability is more important than someone else's opinion. That kind of self-restraint comes from inner strength, not from weakness. Takes maturity to realize that not everything requires your voice. Some situations deserve your silence, not because you're silenced, because you've chosen stillness over noise. That is where real power begins, when you decide that peace is your baseline, not a luxury. People may try to provoke you, pull you into their drama, or challenge your boundaries just to get a reaction, and the old version of you might have taken the bait. Evolution teaches you that not every door needs to be opened. Sometimes silence is a full sentence. Sometimes letting go of the urge to prove yourself is the most powerful response. Peace isn't passive, it's protective. It keeps you grounded, clear-headed, and in alignment with the life you're trying to build. You have to protect your peace the way you protect anything precious. With care, with intention, and with boundaries. Arguments are temporary. Winning them may feel good for a moment, but peace sustains you. It allows you to move forward without residue. Because what's the point of winning if you lose your balance in the process? Sometimes the highest form of success is walking away without raising your voice, keeping your dignity intact, and sleeping at night with a clear heart. There's a deeply ingrained myth that walking away means you gave up, that you were too weak to endure, too sensitive to stay, too fragile to fight. But the truth is, walking away can be the most courageous thing you ever do. It's not giving up, it's leveling up. It's saying, I know my worth and this situation no longer reflects it, whether it's a conversation, a relationship, a friendship, or even a toxic workspace. Choosing to leave doesn't make you less strong. It means you're finally strong enough to put yourself first. People often romanticize staying. They applaud endurance even when it's destroying someone from the inside. But endurance without peace is just prolonged suffering. There is no strength in tolerating what continuously breaks you. You don't earn respect by staying in places that rob you of your self-respect. Choosing to walk away is choosing healing, clarity, and self-preservation. It's understanding that you deserve environments that nourish your spirit, not drain it. There's something deeply powerful about being able to say, this no longer serves me, and I refuse to shrink to fit it. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. It takes maturity to assess a situation, recognize its damage, and step out before it changes who you are. You are not obligated to stay where you are merely tolerated or manipulated. Walking away is a declaration, I will not beg for space where I belong by right. That's not quitting. That's reclaiming. So often people stay because they're afraid of what comes next. The unknown can be intimidating. The cost of staying in a place that chips away at your self-worth is far greater than the fear of the unknown. Growth begins the moment you decide you're no longer going to explain why you're choosing peace over pressure. The world may not always understand your decision, but your soul will thank you for it. You owe no one an explanation for choosing yourself. And let's be honest, walking away doesn't mean you didn't love, didn't try, or didn't care. It means you loved yourself enough to stop bleeding for someone or something that never learned how to hold you. It's honoring your boundaries, your growth, and your future. It's saying, I don't have to set myself on fire to keep others warm. That's not abandonment. That's self-alignment. And when you choose yourself, you begin to attract what reflects that same value. There's a unique kind of confidence that doesn't come from applause or approval. It comes from within. Self-worth doesn't beg to be seen. It doesn't need validation or stage lights. It just knows. When you truly know your value, you don't have to shout it from rooftops or convince anyone to recognize it. You walk into a room and your presence speaks before your voice ever does. That's the beauty of self-worth. It's quiet but undeniable. It's the kind of energy that commands respect without ever asking for it. Taught to perform our worth, to hustle for it, prove it, defend it. But the deeper you go in your own growth, the more you realize that true self-worth doesn't seek permission. It's not loud, it's not performative, it's still, it's grounded. It's the calm in knowing that your value isn't tied to how others perceive you. It's found in how you carry yourself when no one is watching, and in how you protect your peace when everyone is. Self-worth whispers, I don't need to compete because I already belong. You see, people who truly know their worth don't need to announce it. They don't over-explain, overshare, or overcompensate. They don't stay in spaces where they are merely tolerated. They recognize when energy isn't right and have the strength to walk away, not because they feel superior, because they know they're not meant to shrink just to fit in. They don't chase opportunities, people, or attention because they understand that anything aligned with their worth will never require them to abandon themselves. Self-worth gives you is a sense of emotional independence. You stop tying your identity to how others treat you. You stop searching for approval in all the wrong places. You become your own source of validation. There's no need to scream for love when you already carry it inside you. There's no need to prove your value when your entire energy radiates it. You show up fully, unapologetically, and that is your statement. No dramatics, no desperate gestures. Just a quiet, powerful knowing. And in a world that is often loud and attention-seeking, self-worth becomes your quiet rebellion. It allows you to stand tall without being boastful, to let go without looking back, to speak only when necessary, and to move with intention rather than impulse. You don't owe anyone your voice just to feel seen. You are seen because you see yourself. That kind of power can't be faked. It's earned through self-awareness, healing, and an unwavering commitment to honoring your truth. There's a moment after being disrespected where your blood boils, your pride flares, and your instinct screams to react, to say something sharp, to fire back, to show them that you won't be messed with. And while that reaction might feel good in the moment, it's fleeting. Reactions are emotional impulses, quick, heated. Dignity is deliberate. It's lasting. It's what people remember long after the moment has passed. Choosing dignity over reaction isn't about staying silent out of fear. It's about standing tall in your self-respect. In the heat of conflict, reacting can feel like taking control, but more often than not, it hands control over to the very person who disrespected you. When you let someone push your buttons, get to steer the narrative, dignity, on the other hand, puts you back in the driver's seat. It allows you to respond not from ego, but from clarity, not from pain, from power. Because real strength isn't about making noise, it's about knowing when to remain unshaken, when to disengage without apology. There's something undeniably powerful about someone who refuses to be dragged down into pettiness. It's a strength that's often misunderstood in the moment. People might call it weakness or pride, but it's actually the opposite. It's maturity. It's grace. It's wisdom. Dignity is what allows you to walk away with your head held high even when your heart is hurting. It's choosing your long-term peace over a short-term victory. And not everyone has the discipline to do that. We don't often talk about how much courage it takes to withhold a reaction, how much emotional restraint it requires to bite your tongue when you could easily destroy someone with the truth. But that's the thing. Dignity doesn't seek destruction. Even when it's justified, it doesn't look for revenge or validation. It simply says, I'm better than this, and keeps it moving. And there is nothing more intimidating than someone who knows their value and refuses to let anyone drag them out of character. Your reaction might win the moment. Your dignity will win the memory. People forget what was said in the heat of the argument, but they remember how you carried yourself through it. Dignity is legacy. It's the energy that lingers long after the noise dies down, and when the dust settles, won't be your reaction they respect. It will be the way you stayed true to yourself when you had every reason not to. That's the kind of power that doesn't fade. It builds you. There are moments when words just aren't necessary. Not because you don't have something to say, but because you've grown past the need to explain yourself. Silence in the right hands is power. It's not about weakness or defeat. It's about choosing a response that is bigger than ego. Sometimes the most unforgettable message you can send is the one that comes without sound. When you stop responding to disrespect, when you stop feeding into pettiness, your silence becomes louder than any argument. It says, I don't need to fight to prove my worth. I already know it. When people underestimate you, mistreat you, try to provoke you, there's often an expectation that you'll react, that you'll yell, explain, beg, or break. But when you don't, when you choose to remain still, they are forced to confront something far more uncomfortable, your self-control. Silence doesn't give them anything to manipulate. It doesn't give them fuel. It becomes a mirror, forcing them to reflect on their own actions without your voice softening the blow. And in that stillness, they remember who you are. You don't have to remind anyone of your value by shouting it. The way you carry yourself, the way you leave a room without drama, the way you refuse to entertain disrespect, it all speaks volumes. Silence becomes your statement. It becomes a declaration. I'm not going to perform for your approval or your reaction. Your calm is disruptive to those who thrive on chaos. And in a world that often mistakes noise for strength, your composure becomes unforgettable. There's a quiet dominance in someone who doesn't flinch, doesn't respond, doesn't retaliate. It's not indifference, it's restraint. It's knowing that energy is sacred and not everyone deserves yours. Your silence creates space for truth to reveal itself, for people to realize your absence, for your presence to be missed in ways that words could never describe. And that silence, it can echo louder than any scream, especially when it's backed by confidence and clarity. Let them wonder why you didn't respond. Let them sit with the silence. Let them feel the absence of your energy. Because silence, when it comes from a place of strength, not fear, is the final word. You don't need to announce your boundaries when you can embody them. You don't need to explain your worth when your stillness already speaks for it. In a world addicted to reaction, your silence will always set you apart, and sometimes that's the only reminder they need.